There was a time when they smiled in your face, patting your back, whispering sweet little words of encouragement. But those smiles, they were never real. The hands that lifted you up were only measuring the best height from which to drop you. You never noticed, did you? Too busy believing in promises woven from cobwebs, in oaths sworn with forked tongues. But oaths, they are delicate things, brittle as old bones. And bones, well, they break. You see, they never really wanted you to win. Not truly. The world is built on a simple principle: balance. And when one rises too high, another must be dragged down. It's an unspoken law, written in the fine print of existence. They swore an oath to see you buried beneath the weight of your own dreams, crushed under the pressure of your own ambition. Because your success, it is an insult to their mediocrity. So they gathered in their little corners, whispering in hushed tones, weaving plans as fragile as glass. They set traps, they placed obstacles, they turned their backs when you needed them most. But here's the part they never considered. When you take away a person's support, when you strip them of comfort, you do not weaken them. No, you force them to grow fangs. You see, betrayal is an expensive lesson, but it is also a gift. Because when the hands that once fed you become the ones that starve you, you learn to hunt. And when the voices that once praised you become the ones that curse you, you learn to speak in silence. They thought they were carving your grave, but all they did was sharpen your blade. Still, they watch. They wait. They tell themselves you will stumble, that the weight of solitude will be too much to bear, that your anger will make you reckless. But anger, it is not your enemy. It is your teacher. It is the fire in the belly of the beast, the whisper in the dark that says, "Get up." And oh, you will get up. But not as the one they knew. No, that version is gone. Now, they will face something else entirely. But even now, they cling to their delusions. They convince themselves that you will fall in line, that you will accept your place among the broken, that you will play by their rules. Foolish, really. Because what they don't understand is that some do not break. Some bend, they twist, they adapt, and in doing so, they become something unrecognizable, something untouchable. You are no longer the one they can manipulate. You are no longer the pawn in their game. And yet, they will still try. They will plot and they will scheme because they are creatures of habit, bound by their own ignorance. They do not realize that their oath, this grand, ridiculous pledge to destroy you, was never really about you at all. It was about them, about their fear, about their weakness. And weakness, well, it does what it always does. It collapses under its own weight. You see, there's a moment in every war where the tide turns, a shift, a fracture, a single spark that changes everything. They never see it coming, not until it is too late. Because while they were busy plotting, you were busy becoming something else. Not a victim, not a martyr, but something far more dangerous. A force. And forces do not ask permission. They do not beg for acceptance. They simply move, with purpose, with inevitability, with the certainty of a storm that has already begun to brew. The funny thing is, they never even realized what they were doing. In trying to break you, they built you. In trying to silence you, they gave you a reason to speak. And now, the echoes of their own treachery will haunt them. Because you do not forget. You do not forgive. Not because you are cruel, no, but because you have learned. You have seen the truth behind their smiles, the emptiness behind their oaths, and you understand now, with perfect, terrifying clarity, that there are no second chances in a world that thrives on betrayal. So let them try. Let them scramble. Let them grasp at their last shreds of control, because something is coming. A reckoning, a shift, a quiet, inevitable change in the air. And when it arrives, it will not come with a roar or a battle cry. It will come in silence, in stillness, in the realization that the power they thought they held was never theirs to begin with. And that is when the bones begin to break. Ah, but the beauty of broken bones is that they heal wrong. They grow back twisted, knotted, harder than before. You see, that's the thing about damage. It does not simply disappear, it transforms. And the ones they tried to destroy? Oh, they have been reborn. They have seen through the game, and now they play by different rules. No longer bound by expectations, no longer fooled by smiles. They walk with a different gait, a different purpose, a different fire in their eyes. And now, they are the ones who must watch their backs, because the hunted have learned to hunt, and when they move, they will not announce it. No grand speeches, no declarations of war, just quiet steps in the dead of night, shadows where there were none before, a whisper that chills the blood. They thought they had control. They thought they were safe, hidden behind their walls, their oaths, their empty threats. But when someone has nothing left to lose, when they have already walked through fire and come out the other side, what is there left to fear? Nothing. And that is the most terrifying thing of all. Because fear, oh, it is a currency. It buys loyalty. It keeps the weak in line. It maintains the illusion of power. But when someone stops fearing, when the chains that bound them rust away into nothing, that is when the tables turn. That is when the real game begins. They feel it now, don't they? That shift in the air. The way their hands tremble when they think no one is watching. The way their voices falter, just slightly, when they speak of you. Because for the first time, the prey is watching back, calculating, learning, deciding. See, the powerful, they do not fear justice. They do not fear consequences. They fear irrelevance. They fear the day when their names are whispered not with awe, but with laughter. When the weight of their own deceit finally buckles and drags them down into the very dirt they once stood above. They built their throne from borrowed time, and time, it always comes to collect. Now they scramble. Desperation is an ugly thing, twisting their faces, making them reckless. They call in favors, they tighten their circle, they whisper among themselves, thinking strategy will save them. But what strategy do you use against something you can no longer predict? Against someone who has stepped beyond fear, beyond hesitation, beyond the limits they spent so long crafting. They always thought they were untouchable, that no matter how far they pushed, no matter how many times they cut you down, you would always rise just enough to be beaten again. But the problem with pushing someone too far? Eventually, they stop coming back as the same person. They return sharper, colder, their kindness eroded, their patience burned away. And then, well, then the game is no longer theirs to control. It is not vengeance they should fear. Vengeance is impulsive, messy, predictable. No, what they should fear is precision. the kind of patience that moves like a slow, creeping tide, swallowing their foundations before they even realize the ground beneath them is gone. A reckoning is not a single moment. It is a series of quiet, deliberate choices. And by the time they understand this, it is already too late. The world has an appetite for irony, doesn't it? The same voices that once cheered their names will turn against them. The same hands that once built them up will be the first to let go. Because power, it does not inspire loyalty. It inspires fear. And fear, it is fickle. It shifts, it bends, it finds new masters. When people see that the one they were told to trample is still standing, stronger than before, they begin to ask questions. And questions, oh, questions are dangerous things. What was it all for? The backstabbing, the betrayals, the whispered oaths in the dark? To destroy someone they could never truly control? To silence someone who only grew louder in the void they tried to create? They will never admit it, but deep down, in the silence of their own thoughts, they know. They lost the moment they underestimated you. And now they are forced to watch. To witness the unraveling of everything they swore would remain unshaken. They thought they were sculpting your downfall, never realizing that every cut, every scar was shaping something far more terrifying, something they do not understand, something they cannot stop. You see, they expected anger, they expected chaos, retaliation, destruction, because that is what they would do. That is how they operate. But this is different. This is the quiet dismantling of everything they built, the slow decay of their influence, the weight of their own sins pulling them under. There is no grand explosion, no dramatic undoing, just the steady, inevitable crumbling of their empire, brick by brick, bone by bone. And still, they do not understand. They still believe they can recover, that there is a way out, that if they just move carefully enough, pull the right strings, they can salvage what is left. But there is nothing left. Because they did not just lose control of you, they lost control of themselves. Their power was never real, just an illusion held together by borrowed time and stolen trust. And now, that illusion is gone. Funny, isn't it? The very thing they feared most is the thing they created. They wanted you weak, obedient, silent. Instead, they reforged you into something unshakable. They wanted to break you, but in doing so, they only revealed the parts of you that cannot be broken. And now, as they stand amidst the ruins of their own making, grasping at the ghosts of their former power, they finally understand. They were never above you. They were only standing on a ledge that was always bound to collapse. They hear the whispers now, don't they? The murmurs in the streets, the shifting tide of opinion. Where once their name commanded respect, now it is met with caution, with doubt, with suspicion. And soon it will be met with something even worse, mockery. Because nothing destroys the illusion of power quite like laughter. When people begin to see the cracks, when they start to joke, when they stop believing, that is when the fall truly begins. And this is just the start. They wanted to make you afraid. They wanted to silence you, break you, bury you beneath the weight of their world. But they failed to realize something crucial. You are not beneath them. You never were. And now, the world sees it too. And now, as they stand amidst the ruins of their own making, grasping at the ghosts of their former power, they finally understand. It is not the sword that undoes them. It is not the fire, it is the silence, the absence of the fear they once commanded, the shifting tide of loyalty that no longer bends in their favor. They have become relics of a game they no longer control, shadows cast by a flame that no longer burns for them. They always thought power was about domination, about crushing opposition before it had the chance to rise. But power is not taken, it is given. And now no one is giving it to them anymore. The weight of their own hubris bears down, heavier than any chain they once fastened around your wrists. It presses against their lungs, a slow suffocation, the creep-in realization that they are no longer feared, no longer respected, no longer anything but fading echoes in a world that has moved past them. Look at them. Their hands still reach, still claw for something solid to hold on to. But everything they once owned slips through their fingers like dust. They would scream if they thought it would help. But who would listen? Who remains to care? Their power was never truly theirs. It was borrowed, stolen, built upon the backs of those they thought would never rise. But rise you did. Not in anger, not in vengeance. No, that would be too easy, too merciful. You rose in silence, and in that silence you became something they never expected. Unshackled, unbreakable, unstoppable. And that is their true punishment. Not death, not destruction, but irrelevance. To be forgotten by the very world they sought to control. To be erased not by force, but by time, by consequence, by their own hands fumbling in the dark, unable to find the light. Once, they were giants. Now, they are ghosts. And you are still standing. No crown, no throne, no need for the games they played. You have surpassed them in every way that matters, not because you crushed them, but because they no longer matter at all. Their bones break beneath the weight of their own deceit, their own desperation. They swore an oath to destroy you, but oaths are fragile things, brittle in the hands of those who never understood their own mortality. But let's not pretend they don't fight it. Oh, they resist. The ego does not surrender easily. They scramble through the wreckage, clawing at old tricks, hoping to reclaim something that has already slipped beyond their grasp. They whisper poison, hoping to twist minds against you. But what use is venom when the fangs have been pulled? Their greatest mistake was believing they could shape the world to their will, that they could dictate the story and write you out of it. But the ink is dry. The page has turned, and they are nothing but footnotes in a book that no longer belongs to them. Do they know it yet? Truly? Perhaps. Perhaps not. The desperate will believe any lie, as long as it spares them from the truth. But truth does not wait for permission. It does not soften its edges to make the fall easier. It simply arrives. And when it does, oh, how it burns. They see it now, don't they? The way people shift away, the way doors close, the way the silence grows heavier with each passing day. There is no enemy to fight, no villain to blame. Only the weight of their own reflection, staring back at them, unflinching, undeniable. What do they do when there is no one left to fear them? When their name no longer carries weight, when their words no longer hold power, when even the shadows refuse to acknowledge them? They crumble, slowly at first. A crack in the mask, a hesitation in their voice, a tremor in their hand. Then the collapse comes all at once, swift and merciless. The moment they realize they are not gods. They never were. And you? You do not gloat. You do not linger in their ruins. You do not waste breath on a victory that was always inevitable, because you have already moved on. They swore an oath to destroy you, but oaths are nothing without power, and power is nothing without belief. And belief? Well, it belongs to those who have earned it. You earned it. And freedom? Oh, that is the one thing they never saw coming. Because true power does not announce itself. It does not scream. It does not demand. It simply exists, undeniable, immutable. A force they can neither control nor erase. And now, they live in a world where you have become the storm they once feared, the one they thought they could extinguish. But the thing about storms, they do not ask for permission. They do not wait for approval. They simply arrive. And when they do, the old world, it drowns. So let them claw, let them beg, let them whisper to ghosts in the night. It changes nothing. The story is over. The world has moved on. And you are still standing.